In today's video, I'm gonna walk you through how to build an AI SaaS platform that lets you create and chat with lifelike AI characters by using Bubble. If you struggle with Bubble and want to learn how to build real SaaS apps, or maybe you just want to improve your skills, this course has something for you. I'm Sean and I've built SaaS apps for businesses and startups using Bubble, and I'll also teach others how to build with this amazing tool. Now let's show you exactly what we're gonna build. So as I've told you, you can create and chat with any persona you can imagine. So let's test it out and go to Lionel Messi. It opens the chat with him and let's ask him, what did you feel when winning the 2022 World Cup? Interesting question. While smiling softly, it was a mixture of joy, relief, and overwhelming sense of pride. And he keeps on giving us a thorough answer, and this answer mimics the way the real Lionel Messi would answer you. Now let's go ahead and ask Steve Jobs what he thinks about Apple. Think about Apple. And you can see he has a personalized answer, smiles warmly. Apple is like the amazing canvas where technology meets art. It's not just a company, it's a philosophy, a relentless pursuit of innovation and simplicity. And he gives us a full answer while he's convinced that he's the real Steve Jobs, the owner of Apple. Besides chatting, you can also filter them by categories. So for example, we choose a scientist, famous people, and the newest ones. And we can also search for someone. So Albert will give us Albert Einstein. This platform is also gonna be a software as a service. So let's see what happens when I click the Create tab right here. You'll see I'm prompted to upgrade to Pro in order to create custom AI companions. So let's click Subscribe and let's go to the checkout. I'll enter my information here. After that, I can go to the settings page and see that I'm currently on the Pro plan in the subscription settings, and also all the past subscriptions that I had and cancelled. Here you can also cancel the subscription and update your details. So let's see what happens once I click the Create tab right now. You can see that I'm no longer blocked. So now I can create my custom companion. Let's go ahead and create a companion named Gandalf. Let's add an image of Gandalf. I'll add a description, the wise wizard. And for the category, I'll choose movies and TV. Now for the instructions, I'll paste something that I already prepared. It basically lets the AI know how to behave. So you are Gandalf the Grey, a wise powerful wizard from Middle-earth. And he keeps on giving him instructions. I'll make an example conversation and I'll paste it here. So we have an example conversation how a human and Gandalf would communicate. Now let's create the companion. And now, after the creation, let's test him. So let's ask him, who are you? Oh, a hearty smile spreads across my face. I'm Gandalf the Grey, a wanderer from Middle-earth, a seeker of truth and wisdom, and a guardian against the shadows that will engulf our world. You see, so this character is fully convinced that he's Gandalf the Grey. How cool is that? We can also see that we have a counter for the messages. And here we can also edit or delete our companion if it was created by us. So we created it and we can change the details. So I think I've covered enough of this app and its functionality for you to want to build it also. Let's make a quick overview of the course. So for the first part, we're gonna set up the foundation. In the foundation part, we're gonna configure the database and put some option sets. We'll make the app secure with privacy rules. And we'll also create a stylish app by using the styles. This will create the foundation of the app, and then we can start with the user registration page. Part 2 will be about the core UI and the companion management. We'll start by building the reusable element of the header. Then we'll continue with building the sidebar. After that, we'll bring the layout to life and build the home page. And the last thing we're gonna do in this part is creating the companion form. And after this, we'll continue to part 3, where we'll build the AI chat system. We'll start with creating the chat header and the chat UI, and then we'll connect to the OpenAI API and we'll create the AI response workflow. This step will bring the life into the app. For the last part, it will be about the monetization and the paywall, and we'll start by integrating Stripe into the application. We'll build the paywall to restrict user access, and then we'll build the settings page for users to manage their account settings and their subscription settings. Now I have some pro tips for you to get as much as you can from this build. So watch on 1.5 or 2x speed if you want to save yourself some time. Now if you have any problems or you're stuck in a roadblock in the build, you can go to my free school community called Bubble Playbook. There you have a category of Ask and Help. You can just post the question or the problem that you're facing, and I or somebody of the community members will answer it and help you to get unstuck. For the last tip, open and duplicate the follow along document. So I've prepared a super easy document for you guys to follow along while we're building this. I will show you how it looks like. So I recommend to duplicate it and edit it on your own. Here you have the database structure that we're going to use, all the option sets, the styles, some CSS snippets that we're going to need, the companion data that is used in the app, some help with the API call configuration, and some links for OpenAI, and also some additional resources like the Stripe dashboard link and some stock images that I used in this build. And here you have all the features that we're gonna build module by module, and you can tick it off as we go to follow along and see that everything's clear. Alright, this is an action-driven content, so please open up your laptop, grab a cup of coffee, and let's just do it. Before we start building the actual AI companion app, we need to set up the foundation. This means structuring our database, defining option sets, setting up basic privacy rules, and styling our app for consistency. Getting this right from the beginning will make everything easier as we move forward. Let's go ahead to the Data tab. In the Data Types section, we'll add 5 main data types. The first one is the user that's already built in Bubble. Second one will be the companion. The companion will store all the AI characters details. We'll have a message data type that will store the chat history between users and the AI characters. And we'll also need the message counter data type that will track how many messages a user has sent to the companion. And the last one will be the subscription. The subscription data type will store all the subscription details. Before we add any fields to the data types, let's go ahead and configure some option sets. Option sets store static values that don't change, which makes them perfect for drop-down selections or filtering. We'll add an option set category for companion categories. Oh, a little typo. Category. We'll add the option set sender to define message source if the robot sent it or the user. We'll also add the option set for subscription status, and the subscription can be active or cancelled. And the last option set I want to add is option set menu. That way we can use these options to navigate. So we'll have the Home tab, the Create tab, and also the Settings tab. Now let's go back to the data types and create the necessary fields. So for the users fields, we'll create a name field of type text. We'll create a profile picture field of type image, and also we'll need a subscription field to link to a subscription data type. Next, let's create the companion data type. This will store all the details about our AI characters. Now, the AI character should have a name, and it will be a type text. It should have a category of the option sets category. It should have the description of type text, an image of type image. It should have the instructions that will be a text, and the seed conversation will also be a text. Now both of the instruction and seed conversation fields will help us define the personality of the AI character. Now let's add the message data type to store the chat history. So we'll need a message text field of type text. We'll need the sender to identify the source with the option set sender. We'll need the user who is linked to the message and the companion field that is linked to the companion data type. Now let's go ahead and add the fields to the message counter. The message counter should have the message count field of type number. It should also have the user field linked to the user data type and also a companion field linked to the companion data type. Finally, we'll add the fields for the subscription data type, and we'll need the start date of type date, the end date, also it will be a date. We'll need a field for the status of the subscription and also a field for the subscription ID. It will be a type text and we're gonna get it from the Stripe API. So in the document, we can go and tick all the fields that we configured in the database, so we know it's all done. Now the database is structured and the option sets are done. Let's go to the Privacy tab. Here we need to make sure that users can only see their own messages and profile details while keeping the AI companions publicly visible. Now let's make the user data type that only the field name will be seen by others, that the user is not the current user. Let's go ahead and add a rule for the subscription that only the user's own subscription can be seen. So if this subscription creator is current user, that only then he can see the details of the data type. Now let's do the same for the message counter and add a rule of users counter and restrict it only for the message counter's user. For the message, we'll do the same. We'll call it the user's message and restrict it only for this message. User is current user and everyone else will have no permissions. And lastly, for the companion, I will leave it publicly visible. Now that the privacy settings in place, we can go to the Styles tab and start styling the app. A good UI starts with consistent design. I'm gonna pick some colors that will make the end product just as we seen in the product demo, but you can feel free to change it as you like. So for the background, I'll use the color 26, 26, 26. For the surface, I'll use the hex color of 40, 40, 40. And for the text, I will just do FC, FC, FC. Now I'll go to the Element Styles tab and I'll add a style for the button that we will call main button white. We'll change the background color to the text color. The font color will be the background color. And the icon can also be the background color. Now I'll change the roundness to 5. And that's it for the main button. It's already a default. Great. So now I'll go to the input styles. I'll press on the standard input and change the background color to the surface. I'll leave the placeholder as gray 50 and the text as white. I'll add another style that will be called input form and we'll change the background color to background or even we'll do it black. And that's it. The settings are okay. The roundness is 5. This all the styles that I wanted to add. Great job so far. At this point, we've built the core foundation of our AI companion app. We've created the data types, we've defined the option sets, we've configured the privacy rules, and applied some styling to the app. Now we can start with the fun stuff. We'll build the UI components and start connecting everything. Before users can interact with the AI companion, they need to create an account and log in. So now we'll build the login and sign up pages. We'll set the workflows to register and log in users. So I'll start by setting the layout of this page to a column. I'll go to the Appearance tab and change the background to the background color. I'll add a group to the page. I'll call it Group Login. I'll go to the Layout tab and put padding of 72 to the top, 72 to the bottom, 48 for the left and 48 to the right. I'll take another group and put it inside the login group. I'll call it Group Container and set the layout to be a row. Now inside this group, I will drop another group and call it Group Login Form. I'll take another group and put it also in the group container and I'll call it Group Image. Now for the group container, I'll set the space between rows 24 pixels and between columns 16 pixels. Now in the group image, I'll just drop there an image. And now I'll start to add the elements inside the login form. So the first element will be the login title. I'll make the size of the text 36. I'll bold it and write login. I'll put another group below the login and call it Group Input Container. I'll set the max width of this group to 400 pixels. I'll drop another group inside the input container and call it Group Email. I'll drop a text inside the group email and also an input element. In the text, I will write email. Now for the input, I'll go to the Layout tab and untick the fixed width box and call it Input Email Login. And in the Appearance tab, I'll change the content format to email. Now I'll take this group, copy and paste it inside the input container group. I'll change the group input container space to 16. I'll change this text to be password. And the input, I will change the name to be also password and the content format to be a password. Now I'll take a button and put it inside the group login form. And in the group login form, I'll go to the layout and apply a space of 48 pixels. Now I'll do some changes to the style of the button. I'll change the roundness to 50. I'll change the font size to 16, the font weight to be semi-bold, and in the Layout tab, I'll change the padding to be top 12, bottom 12, left and right 24. Now let's go back to the Design tab and change this button label to be Login. Now the last element I need here will be the text. The text will say, already have an account. Now I'll take the button and the text and group them in a column container. I'll go to the layout of this column container and apply the gap to be 8. And that's it for this group. Now I'll go to the big group. I'll set the max width to be 1200. And I'll go to the image group. I'll untick the fixed width box and keep the element aspect ratio fixed. Great. Now in the Appearance tab, I'll upload the image that I want to show here. And what a cool image! You shall not pass without logging in. Only those who log in may enter. I think it looks nice. And the last thing I need to do is go to the index page and set the container alignment to be centered. Now I'll take the group login and copy and paste it onto the page. Now I'll change the group name to sign up. I'll hide the group login and we'll do the necessary changes here. So the login should be a sign up. The input here should be email sign up. The password should be sign up also. The button will be sign up. And the already have account, it's what we need here. We just made a mistake here. This should be in the login group, create a new account. Now I'll hide the login again. I'll make the login form group centered and I'll change it also to sign up form. Now the last thing for this group will be to copy the group email, paste it inside the input container, make it the first one and change it to full name. The text will be full name and the input should be also full name. Now the content format will be text. Now we'll change the placeholders. So here it's a full name. Here it will be like johnsmith@gmail.com. And here we can just do some asterisks. Now let's make the same changes for the group login. This should be this, and the email can be johnsmith@gmail.com. Great, so we have the UI in place. Now I want to make the login button log the user in using the email input of the login and the password input of the login. Now, after the user is logged in, I want to add an action to navigate the user to a new page. The page will be called Home. Great. Now let's build the workflow for the sign up. So we'll use the action sign the user up. We'll give it the input of the sign up, email, and the password of the sign up. Now I'll change another field. I'll go to the name and give it the full name input. Great. Here we need to navigate the user to the home page. Now I want to change the functionality of the UI and I'll go to the group login and group sign up. I'll make both of them not visible on page load and I'll add a condition when index new custom state, let's call it sign up ? And put the state type as a yes or no. And now when the index sign up is no, this element is visible. I'll copy this condition and we'll make the same for the group sign up. So if the sign up is yes, this would be visible, but on page load it won't be. That's great. So to make the states change, I'll need to create a new workflow in the create a new account text that will set the state of the index page sign up to yes. And we'll do the same for the already have an account text, that it will set the state of the index page to be sign up equals no. Now the last thing that I want to add here in the workflow tab is when the user is logged in, he'll go to the home page. Now let's go ahead and preview this. So the container should be aligned to the middle. The group container should be horizontal aligned to the center, and also the group container here. Now it should work. Great. Let's create a new account. I'll call it like this, and we'll check the sign up flow. Great. So we're at the home page. Now let's try and go back to the index page. It will just send us to the home page because we have the workflow that when a user is logged in, it sends it to the home page. Great job so far. So we've managed to complete the user registration. Next, we will build the header. Let's mark all the workflows in the green color to indicate that we finished building them and checking them. And let's go to the Notion document and tick all the boxes that we finish. So we build the login page, the workflow to register a new account, to log in as an existing user, and the check if the user is logged in. Great job. Now we're going to build the header of the app. So let's go ahead and create a new reusable element and call it header. Let's make the canvas easier to work with by setting the width of the default builder to 1200. Then I will drop a group inside the reusable element. I will call it group header. I will give a padding of 16 to the left and to the right, and the container layout should be row, and the container alignment will be space between. Now I'll take a text element and put it inside the header group. I'll make it vertical aligned to the center. I'll change the text size to 32 and make it bold. And I'll write companion.ai. Now I'll change the header, the whole reusable element, background color to be the background color, and I'll set the layout to be centered. Now I'll drop another group inside this header group. I'll make it the last one, and I'll fit its width to content. I'll apply a space between of 32 pixels, and I call this group account. Now in this group account, I want to drop an image. The image aspect ratio should be 1:1. The width should be 36, and the roundness should be 100. Now I'll insert a dynamic data of the current user profile picture, and I'll make a conditional that when the current user profile picture is empty, we'll make the image static one and put it as the default when there's no profile picture to the user. Let's call it image profile picture. Great. Now I'll go ahead and add another button to the group. I'll make this group a row, make column gap of 32 pixels. Now the button should be before the image, and the button will make it a special button, so we'll detach the style. We'll make the roundness 5. We'll make the font color white. We'll change the button type to be an icon and a label. I'll change the icon to be sparkle. It should be in the phosphor and in the fill. This icon is what I want. and the label should be upgrade. Then I want to add another conditional to the button that will say if the current user subscription status is not active, then it will show it. Otherwise, I don't want it to show on page load. Great. Now let's make the button visible. I'll change also the icon placement gap between the text, the label, and the icon to be 12. And I'll change the icon color to be white. I want the button to be a minimum height of 40. The padding on the left and the right should be 20. Now before I make the styling of the button, because currently it's only white blob, but I'll add some CSS code to make this button look like a really good upgrade button, something that people would like to press on. So I'll take the HTML element and put it inside this group. I'll make it fixed width 1 and fixed width height 1 pixel, that it won't take space inside the header. I'll call it HTML upgrade button. And I'll go to the document that you have and I'll copy this text snippet. It's a CSS code that will make the button look really good. So we have the CSS code for the premium button. This CSS code says that the element that have this ID should take all of these properties and change it. So I'll take this ID, I'll copy it, and now I need to go to the settings in order to reveal the element's ID option. So you go to the General tab and go way down. Here you have exposed the option to add an ID attribute to HTML elements. Tick that and go back to the Design tab. Now we have the ID attribute here and we can paste the premium button that we have on the CSS code. Now it will work when we render the app in preview mode. The last thing that I want to do here for the profile picture is to vertical align it to the center. Great. So now I want to see how it looks on the page. We'll go to the page home. We'll make the container layout a column and we'll drop the header reusable element that we just made. We'll make the min height 60 and that's it. So let's see it in action. Look at that beautiful button. So this is what the CSS code makes and you just need to paste it and it will work like magic. Great, that looks great. So let's go and add the last things to the header. So I'll add an icon between the two elements that we have already. I'll make the layout centered and this will be our menu for the mobile. So let's go to the material icon and choose this mobile. Let's make it white and just change its name to be icon menu mobile. For now, I won't add the workflow, but we will do it later. Now I want to add a group focus on the page. We'll call it group focus account. The reference element will be the group account. Now I'll make changes to the layout. The max width will be 120. The minimum height will be 0. We'll put some paddings to the group, 4 in the top, bottom, left and right. And now we'll drop there a group to give it some space. That's great. The first group will be called group settings. Now this group should have padding for all places of 8 pixels. We'll make a condition that when this group is hovered, we'll change the background style and the background color. The background color will be the background. For the final magic touch, I'll go to the Appearance tab. I'll define a new transition and I'll choose the background style. So I'll add a text inside this group and I'll write settings I'll go ahead and copy this group and paste it in the group focus that we have two groups. I'll change the name to be logout, and I'll change the text to logout as well. Now for the last part of the design, I'll go to the group focus. I'll set the reference element to the image instead, and I'll offset it to -70. Now it looks better. Now let's make the focus group show when clicking this image. So I'll add a workflow to the image that says toggle an element, and we'll choose the group focus account. Great. We'll add a condition to the menu icon that it will show only if the width is smaller than 992, the size of a tablet, and the element will be visible if this condition is true, but on the page load it won't be visible. Let's check the group focus. Yeah, it works. We just need to adjust the borders of both these groups. So let's do it right now and assign some workflows to those groups. So the roundness should be 5. The group settings should be with a workflow that when we click the settings, it will first of all hide the focus group, and then we'll use the go to page navigation and we'll choose home and send some more parameters. We'll send the tab that will be an option from the option set menu, and this will be home. We'll just press on display and this should work now. And for the logout, I'll add another workflow that will log the user out, and then we'll hide the focus group. All of those workflows are general actions or navigation, so I'll mark them in green. And now let's go back to the design tab, hide the group focus, and let's add a pop-up to the page. We'll call this pop-up subscribe. I'll go to the layout and change the max width to 420 and untick the fit width to content. I'll change the minimum height to 200 pixels. I'll go to the appearance and change the background color to be black. And the last thing for this pop-up, I'll change the space between to be 16. Now I'll go ahead and drop a group inside the pop-up. We'll call it group top. I'll change the container layout to be aligned to parent. And here I will drop a text and also an icon. So the icon should be aligned to the right. The text should be in the middle. The text will be upgrade to Pro. The size of the text should be 20. And also I'll bold the text. Now for the icon, let's change it to close. Make it a gray 50. Gray 50 is also A6, A6 and A6 if you don't have it already. I recommend that you save it inside the style variables because we're gonna use this gray 50 a lot in the app. So let's continue to the next element and drop a text below this group. The text should say create custom AI companions. The text color should be gray 50. And we'll also use this syntax in order to change the color of custom AI, only the middle words. So it should look like this bracket color equals 529BC3. We close the brackets and then we open another brackets with the letter B to bold it. Then in the end of the two words that we want to make the change to, we can do brackets /B, close brackets, open brackets, slash color, close brackets. Now you see the color here is changed only for the middle words, and I want it to be horizontally centered. And I think to change the weight to 500 will be better. Now let's take the shape element and drop it below. Now it's over it, so let's make it next. Make the height fixed as 1 and make the element expand as much as it can. Here I'll want to change the color to gray 70. So it's 52, 52, 52. This will act as a divider from the last group that we need to use here. So let's make it last one. And let's change the name of the group to group subscribe. Now this group container layout should be a row and the container alignment should be space between. Now we can drop another text inside this group. The text should be a $9.99 /month. Now I'll also want to customize it by opening a bracket, writing size equals 5, closing brackets, and I'll take only the first two characters and close the size like this. Now the $9 is a little bit bigger and it seems more appealing. Let's make it centered and make the weight of the font 600, a semi-bold. That's great. So let's add a button that says subscribe. We'll change the roundness to be 5. We'll go to the layout tab and change the min height to be 40. And we'll change here the padding. The top and the bottom should be 0 and the left and the right should be 20. Now I'll go and find the HTML element that we used. I'll copy it and I'll paste it inside this group. I'll make it the previous element and I'll change here, instead of premium button, I'll change it to subscribe button. Okay, don't forget to change it also when the hover command, and add the subscribe button ID to this button, like this. Now it should also show us the same style of the button upgrade. Now I'll go and add a workflow for this close icon. The workflow should hide the element pop-up subscribe. Now I'll go back to the design tab, I'll find the button upgrade and I'll add a workflow. Now before that I make an action there, I want to create a new custom workflow. I'll call it show subscribe pop-up. And this custom workflow will show us the pop-up. In the workflow, when button upgrade is clicked, I'll go to the custom events. I'll trigger a custom event to show the subscribe pop-up. Now I'll change the workflows to be marked by blue to indicate that all of them are related to the subscribe feature. This way we can make the app organized from day one. Now that's it for the header. We'll just need to come back here on a later module to actually make use of this subscribe button and the workflow to make a subscription. And also we're gonna get back here when we build the sidebar to use the menu icon for the mobile sidebar. So great job by building this header. Let's just see it in action. When we press upgrade, it will show us the cool subscription pop-up. This one will make us log out or go to the settings. So great job so far. I'll just go back to the document to tick off all the header boxes. So we've built the header as a reusable element, we added responsive conditions, and we added the account dropdown to access the settings and the logout options. Now the header is done. Now let's go ahead and build the sidebar of the app. We'll make another reusable element and call it sidebar. Now for the settings of the sidebar, I want the flat color, the background color, to be the background. I'll go to the layout tab, I'll change the padding of the top and bottom to be 16 and the left and right to be 4. I'll change the minimum height to be 600 just for us to have a space to work with, and the default width will be 80. That's great, it looks like a sidebar now. Let's go and add a group to the sidebar. Let's call this group Group Home. This group roundness should be 5. And let's add a conditional to this group. The condition will be when this group is hovered or get data from page URL, the parameter name will be tab, is get an option set menu home. When this get tab from page URL is home display, then I want the background style to be flat color and the background color to be white with 20% opacity. That's great. So when it's hovered, it will look like this. Now let's go to the layout and make the container alignment centered and the horizontal alignment also centered. Now let's take an icon, drop it inside the group, and we'll take also a text and drop it inside the group. The text should say home and it should be centered to the middle. Now I'll go to the group and I'll add some paddings, A to the top, bottom, left and right. I'll take the icon and make it centered. I'll change the appearance of the icon to a home icon and I'll make it gray 50. Also the home should be gray 50. Now we need to add some conditionals to both the icon and the home, but we can just copy the conditional from the group and paste it to the icon. We just need to change this icon to be group home, and the properties will not be the background, it will be the icon color and it will change to white. Now I want to add the magic touch, so I'll choose the transition of the icon color and we'll do the same to the text. So let's paste the condition, change this text to group home and make the text color change to white. And for the magic touch, let's go to the appearance and change the font color transition. That's great. Let's just not forget to make the magic touch for the group home with the background style transition. And that's it. So all of it is ready. We'll just go and take a copy of this group and paste it twice on the page. The first one should be group create and the second copy will be group settings. Now here I'll check that everything is alright. This group is hovered. This icon already changed to group create, and the group create here in the conditional of the text is also set. Now we'll go to the group settings. This is fine. This is also fine. And yes, everything works just as I planned. And the appearance is also copied. So let's just change the text. So here it should be the settings. Let's grab all three texts and change them to 12 pixels. It will look much better. And change the middle one to create. Now what's left is only the icons. So let's change the icon of the create to an add icon. And the icon of the settings to be the settings icon. Now let's go to the workflow tab. Let's add a custom workflow that is called navigate to tab. Let's add a new parameter called tab, and it will be the type of option set menu. And the action should be navigate to current page and add another parameter called tab, and it will be tab display. Now let's add workflows for the navigation. So when we click group home, it should trigger the custom event navigate to tab and navigate us to the home tab. For the create tab, we'll do the same and just trigger the custom event to navigate us to the Create tab. And lastly, for the Settings tab, let's do Custom Event Trigger to the Settings tab. Now all the navigation is set. We can mark all of them as green because they all have a general purpose or a navigation purpose. And that's it for the sidebar. So let's just drop the sidebar element inside this home page. In the layout, let's feed the width to content and make the fit height to content box unticked so it can expand as much as it can. Okay, so let's change the home appearance, and the background color should be the background color. And this sidebar should have a conditional when the page width is bigger or equal to 992 pixels, it should be visible. Otherwise, don't show it on page load and collapse when hidden. Now I want the sidebar to be inside a group. This group will be a row group. It should be expandable. And for the sidebar, choose the option vertical stretch to make it stretch on the whole page. Great. Just the group should be the main group. And let's just go to the header, edit the reusable element, and add a border to the bottom of solid width 1, and the color should be 70, gray 70. Great. So if we go back to home, we can see we have this little line and it looks much better. So let's check it out here. Great. We can see some color into the app already. Great job so far, and we'll continue on the next video. Now let's create the mobile sidebar. We'll go to the sidebar reusable element. We'll go to the clone this page option and we'll call it mobile sidebar. We'll create it and we'll need to do a few little changes for it to work. So I'll change the default builder width to 120. 120. I'll change the padding to be 8 and 8 to the right. I'll add an icon above all the groups. The icon should be the close icon with the gray 50 color. And I'll go to the layout and make the horizontal alignment to be right aligned. Now this mobile sidebar will be a floating group that when we open it, it will open above all the elements. And now we need to set a custom state to the mobile sidebar to determine if we show or hide this group. And that way we can close it and open it when we want to. So the default value will be no, and when it will be yes, we'll show it. So I'll just make a workflow for this close icon that will set the state. So when this icon is pressed, the mobile sidebar custom state show will be no. And now I'll need to add this action to all of the other workflows. So when we press on navigate it to another tab, it will close the menu automatically. Currently it just changes the state to no, but in a minute we'll configure it that it will animate it out of the screen. Now let's go and put the mobile sidebar element that we just created in the home page. It will be here in the overlays because it's a floating group. Now let's feed the width to content. Make the minimum width 120 and untick the fit height to content box. Now let's untick the element is visible on page load. Now I'll go to the header element and I'll find the icon menu and I'll add a workflow to set the state of this header element. We'll create a new state called show mobile. It will be a yes or no field, And when we click on the menu icon, it will make the show mobile custom state as a yes. And I'll just make this workflow red to indicate this is connected to the sidebar. Let's go back to the home page. Let's add a do when condition is true workflow, and we'll run this every time that the header element show mobile is yes. We'll animate the element mobile sidebar, and we'll use the animation left in, and we'll set the custom duration to be 700. Now I want to set the state of the mobile sidebar show is yes. This action will animate the mobile sidebar when we press the menu icon inside the header. Now I'll add another workflow of the type do when condition is true. We'll run it every time that the mobile sidebar show is null. This will animate the mobile sidebar left out, so it will animate it out of the screen and will make the custom duration 500. Now the last thing that I want to change is the state of the header to be show mobile is no. So before we check the mobile sidebar works perfectly, I'll want to go to the header reusable element. I want this text to be not visible on page load, and when the current page width will be bigger or equal to 992, it should be visible. Now I'll go back to the home page. I'll go to the layout of the mobile sidebar, and I'll actually make the minimum width 0, and we'll see how it looks now. I think that I forgot to change something in the conditionals, so let's go to the mobile sidebar reusable element. This condition is good. Oh yeah, so we forgot to change the get an option. So instead home, it should be create, and this should be settings. Let's check the text. The text also should be customized. So the text and the icon should also change when the option is settings, and here when the option is create. That's probably also not configured in the sidebar, so let's do it quickly. So this should be settings, the icon should be settings, and the text should be settings. Now for the create, we'll change it to create option, and that way all the UI will work perfectly when we use it. So let's check it out and see if everything works as intended. So we have the settings, the create tab and the home tab. I see here that we should add some space between the elements, but let's check the sidebar before that. So if I go to the inspect, I can see an iPhone Pro, for example. And yes, it works. So when I press it, we have our mobile sidebar, and it changes the URL as we want to. That's great. So I see the button is also too big. So let's try and change it also to a height of 40 or something like that. Let's go to the header reusable element, and let's find the button of the upgrade button. And I think the padding should be 0, and this will fix it. So let's see it now. Yes, looks much better. So let's just add the spacing to both sidebars. So this layout should apply the 8 space, and the mobile sidebar should also be like an 8 space between the elements. Now everything seems slick and it works great. Great job so far. We have everything that we wanted. In the next video, we're gonna start building the home page. So I'll see you there. Great, so now that you've built the sidebar and the mobile sidebar, we can tick off the building the sidebar as a reusable element, the navigation of the sidebar, the building of the mobile sidebar, and displaying the mobile sidebar in the home page. Great, great job. Now we'll build the cool home page for our users. So we'll start by dropping a group inside this main group and calling it Home tab. Now I'll give the group paddings of 16 to all sides. I'll make the max width 100% of the parent group, and I'll allow the vertical scrolling when content overflows. So basically when the content is too long, the group will not expand itself. It will allow for scrolling through the content. I'll also untick the visible on page load box, and I'll define when we can see it. So this element will be visible when get tab from page URL is get an option set menu, home, display. So when the tab in the URL is home display, we'll see this group. I'll go back to the layout and apply some space between of 16 pixels. Now the first thing that I want to put in this group will be an input, and we'll call it input search. We'll change the placeholder to search ... and all of the other settings are alright. So I'll go to the layout, I'll untick the fixed width box, and I'll change the height to 40. Now I'll drop a repeating group below the input and call it repeating group OS category. I'll go to the appearance tab, I'll make the type of content OS category, and I'll choose all option set category. I'll change the fixed number of rows to be 1, and the column should be unticked, and we can leave it minimum width of 100 pixels. I think that's it for this repeating group. I'll just make it collapse, and I'll put a group inside the repeating group. This group should have the current sales option set category, and the type of content should also be option set category. This group background color should be a flat color, surface, and also a 5 roundness. For the layout, I'll change the padding to be 16 on all sides, and I'll make margins in the left and the right of 4 pixels. The container alignment should be centered, and I'll add some conditions. So if this group is hovered, I want the background color to be surface with the opacity of 70. Now I'll define another condition that says when get category from the page URL is current sales category display, the background color should be white with the opacity of 25. That's great. Yes, those are the colors that I want. Now I'll take a text element, drop it inside the group, and I'll just insert the dynamic data of the parent group OS category display. Now I'll add a workflow to this group that navigates the user to the current page and send the next parameters. Also, I want to send the current parameters of this page, but the new parameter will be category, and it will be the current sales category display. Now I'll organize the workflows. I'll make both of those workflows green to indicate it's a general workflow, and this workflow will be orange for the home tab. Now let's go back to the design tab and drop another repeating group below the first repeating group. This repeating group type of content should be companion, and I'll set the data source to be a search for companion, and I'll add 2 constraints. The first one will be category equals get category from the page URL, And the second one will be name contains the search input that we've created earlier. Now, when the search input is empty, I want it to ignore empty constraints. And let's continue configuring this repeating group. So the rows should be not fixed, and also the columns will make it 280 of a min width. And that's it for the appearance tab. For the layout tab, I'll just make the min width 0. And now I'll go to the conditional tab and I'll define another condition that when the get category from the page URL is the newest category, then the data source will be different. I'll just copy this data source into here. I'll delete the category, and now it will only search by the name. It will ignore if the search input value is empty, but here I want to sort by the creation date, and I will make it descending. So if the category is newest, it will show us the newest companions. Now let's start by designing this group, the companion group. We'll make it data source current sales companion, and the type of content will be companion. This group's background color should be surface. The roundness should be 10, and we'll make a magic touch of background transition. Great, this group should be called group companion. Even we can add main. In the layout tab, I want to add 8 gap between the elements. I'll add a bottom margin of 8, a right margin of 8, so it separates itself from the different cells in the repeating group. And I'll add 24 pixels on top, bottom, and 16 on the left and the right. Great, so now I'll go to the conditional tab and define another condition. When this group is hovered, I want the background color to be surface with the opacity of 70. Now inside this group, I will drop an image. This image dynamic data should be the parent group companion image. I'll change the name to image companion. I'll go to the layout tab and change the width to be 160. I'll change the aspect ratio to be 1:1 and I'll center it. Now I'll add a text below the image. I'll make it the parent group's companion name. I'll bold it. I'll change it to gray 40 in the color. And now I'll go to the layout tab. I'll add 8 margins to the top and make it centered. Now I'll take another text below this text. This will be our group's companion description. I'll change the font size to be 12. The font color should be gray 60. And the weight of the font should be 500. And I'll go to the layout to center it. Now I'll go and take a group, put it below it. I'll call this group group details. I'll make it a row and I'll make the container alignment space between. Now I'll copy this text. I'll put it here inside the group. I will center it. I'll make in the appearance a different text. It should be at. I'll configure, first of all, this group details data source. It should be the parent companion. And now I can use the data in the text. So the parent companion creator name, and this should be fine. So we can leave an example like this. Now I'll drop an icon inside the group and also another text. Better, I will just copy this one. I'll take both of those elements and group them in a row container. This row container should be vertical alignment to the middle Both of those elements also should align to the middle. I'll make this group container alignment to the right, so they stick to the right. Now I'll change the icon to be chats. Should be here in the phosphor. Yes, this is what I was looking for. And we'll make it gray 60. Now I'll go ahead in the layout tab and change it to a smaller icon. And now let's change the text. So in the appearance tab, gray 60. And for the text itself, we'll delete it. We'll insert the dynamic data. We'll do a search for. We'll choose the message counter option. And we'll make two constraints. The first one will be companion. The second one will be a user. Now, where the companion equals the parent group's companion, and where the user equals the current user, bring me this message counter. Okay, so it will be specific to this card of the companion. And now from the message counter, I'll take from the search the first item and the message count. So it will show us how many messages were sent in this conversation. So I'll just put a number in the canvas for it to be easily interpreted when we develop. Now, in order to finish this home page, I want to click this group companion main, add a workflow to it that will say navigate the user to the page. We'll create a new page called chat. We'll pick the chat option and we'll send the data of the current sales companion. We'll need to change the chat page content type to be a companion. That's great. Now I'll mark it in orange to indicate that's the home tab workflow, and I'll add two more tabs for the general workflows. So the first one will be when the user is logged out, navigate them to the index page. This is also be a general workflow. And I'll make another general workflow. So when the condition is true, the condition will run every time. And the condition will be get tab from page URL is empty. When it's empty, I want to navigate the user to the current page, but send the parameter of the tab, and I'll get an option from the option set menu, home, display. So if a user doesn't have a tab, it will redirect them to the home tab. Let's just mark it as green, and that's it for this video. Great job. We have now configured all of the home page. So currently we don't have any companions to show, but we can see that the category is working and the search input is here. And also when we go to another tab, we don't see the home tab. So great job so far. And next we'll create the create tab. Now that we've done with designing the homepage, let's tick the building the homepage UI, building the search bar, displaying the list of categories, and displaying the list of companions. That's great. Now we'll start creating the create tab. So I'll hide this home tab and I'll drop a new group in the main group. We'll call it create tab. In the appearance tab, I'll make the type of content companion and I leave the data source empty for now. I'll go to the layout. I'll untick the view on page load and I'll make the max height 100% and allow vertical scrolling when content overflows. Now I'll add two conditionals. The first one will be the same as the home page. So when get tab from page URL is get an option, option set menu, create, display. So when the URL shows the create tab, then this element will be visible. And the second thing will be when get companion from the page URL is not empty, then the data source of this group will be the get companion from page URL. We just need to copy it and delete the is not empty. Now it will bring us the companion. This will be used when we want to edit a companion. So basically, when we want to edit the companion, we will transfer which companion we want to edit through the page URL. Now I'll go and add another group in this Create tab. I'll call it Group Container. The group container should have a space between of 16. It should be horizontal aligned to the center. And the max width should be 800. I'll add padding to the top and the bottom of 16 pixels, and I'll add a conditional when the page width is smaller than 992, the left and right padding will also be 16. Great, so this group is ready to go. Now the group container will have a lot of groups inside. So the first group will be group header. There we want to drop a text inside, and we'll write here general information. I'll make the font size 24. I'll make the font weight semi-bold. And that's it for this text. I'll copy this text and drop it inside the group header. I'll change it to 16 pixel size. The weight should be 500 and the color should be grade 60. Now the text will be general information about your companion. Great. And now the last element I want in this group will be a shape. The shape should be gray 70 and the height should be fixed on 1, and we'll untick the make fixed width of the element. And I'll also add an 8 margin on the top. That's great. This is our first group. For the next group, I'll call it not inside here, outside. I'll make it next. The group should be called picture uploader. Now I'll configure this group in a bit. First of all, I'll take the picture uploader element. I'll drop it here. I'll change the width and the height to be 200. The name should be companion image. The roundness of this element should be 10. I don't want any borders on it. And I'll change the static image to be this stock image. Now in the conditionals tab, I'll make a condition when the create tab companion is not empty, then this default should be create tab companion image. So when we want to edit a companion, it will be the default here. Now in the layout, I will just change the padding to 0 in all of them, and I'll make the padding in the group 24, 24, 24, and 24. I'll put some margins on the top and on the bottom. I'll feed the width to the content and make it centered. Now to add a cool effect to this group, I want to make the borders dashed with a width of 5. The roundness should be 10, and I'll change the color to be gray 70. Now it has a little bit of border here. It looks better. So for the next group, I'll add it below. I'll call it group name. I'll add a text inside the group name. I'll add an input inside the group name, and I'll add another text. So it should be text input text. Now the first text will be a name, and I'll just change the weight to be semi-bold. Now this group name should also have a gap of 8 between the elements. For the input, I'll untick this fixed width, I'll make the height 40, and I'll change the style to the input form that we had, and I'll change the input name to be name, and the placeholder to be Elon Musk. I'll tick the box of this input should not be empty, and I'll insert dynamic data in the initial content of the create tab, companion, name. So if we edit, it's already here. And for the last text element, I will make it gray 60. I will make the font medium 500, and I'll change the text to "This is how your AI companion will be named." Great. So this group name is ready. I'll take this group name, I'll copy it, paste it inside the container, I'll change it to group description, and I'll take both of those groups and group them in a row group. I will change its name to group name and description. I'll adjust some layout settings, and I'll make the big group of name and description to have row gap and also a column gap. We'll need the row gap when we go mobile, because the elements will just collapse on top of each other. I think this is it for the big group. We'll just edit the description group. So this should be a description. This should be also a description. The placeholder can be CEO and founder of Tesla SpaceX. Great. And for the last text, I will change it to short description for your AI companion. Now it's important to change the input name to input description for later use. Now I'll take this group name and description, I'll paste it in the container, and this will be our category. So there's a few changes that we need to make. First of all, this group, I will delete all the elements inside, but I leave the group as it is. So it will act as a placeholder to make those groups aligned. Now the category should not have an input. We'll use the replace the element type option and make it a drop down. Now the drop down is very ugly, so let's change it. The font color should be white. The placeholder should be gray 50, and the background color should be black. We'll change the roundness to be 5. The borders should be none, and the name should be drop down category. Great. So for the choices, they should have dynamic choices. The type of choices will be option set category. We'll take all the option set category options, and we'll make the current option display the caption that when the drop down is opened, what we see. The default value will be the create tab companion category. So when we edit, it's already here. Now for the placeholder, we'll just right select a category, and I think that I need to take all 3 inputs and make the min width 200. And just to wrap up this category component, I'll change this to be select a category for your AI. Great, so we're halfway there. Now in order to work more comfortably, I can change this min height to be 2000. Later we will make it back to something like 800, but for now it gives me the space to work. So the next group will be the configuration group. I'll just take this group because it's very similar. I'll paste it here. I'll give it some top margin of 32. I'll change this text to be configuration. And this text should be detailed instructions for AI behavior. Great. And this shape will stay the same. Now I need to add two multi-line inputs. So I'll just copy this group name. Inside this container group, let's close it so we can see everything. So inside the group container, I'll paste this group name. I'll change it to group instructions. This should be instructions as well. I'll change this element type to be a multi-line input. Always ugly. So I'll take the font color, change it to white, the placeholder the same will be gray 50, the background will be black, and the multi-input should have a height of minimum 120. It shouldn't be fixed height. The name should be multi-input instructions. And let's go to the appearance tab and change this create app companion instructions. And for the placeholder, I'll need to go to the Notion document and copy the instructions of Elon Musk. So I'll go to the companion data, Elon Musk, and we have here these instructions. So when someone wants to create a new companion, all the placeholders will have an example of how it should look based on Elon Musk. So if you remember, we put Elon Musk in the name, his description, CEO of Tesla and SpaceX, and everything is related to Elon Musk. Oh, we need to change the borders. So it should have no borders and the roundness should be 5. I'll go to the layout tab and change all the paddings to be 8 pixels. And now it's better. Let's go to the less text and change it to describe in detail your companion's backstory and relevant details. So you have the example here, and you also have the document to see all of the examples of all the companions that I've prepared for you. Now I'll take this group instructions, I'll copy it and paste another one in the container. Now we have this group, the second instructions. We'll call it group example conversation. I'll change this text to be example conversation. Oops. In the input, I'll change this initial content to be the seed conversation. It's just like the example conversation. And I'll go back to the document and paste this example conversation of Elon Musk. Great job. Now I'll change this text, the third one, to be write couple of examples of a human chatting with you, your AI companion. Write expected answers. Now it seems good. So this form is almost ready. We'll just add another button in the container. I hope it's inside the container. Yes. So I'll make it the last one. I'll add 16 marginal top. I'll change the top and bottom paddings to be 0 and the left and the right to be 20. Now I want this button to be with an icon. This button should say create your companion and the icon should be a magic wand. Great. I'll go down and change the roundness to be 5. I'll go to the layout tab, I'll center this button to the middle and make the gap between the icon and the text 12. Lastly, I will make a condition that says when create tab companion, the one we want to edit, is not empty, then this label will be edit your companion. Great. So we managed to create the design for the create tab and all the inputs that we need in order to create the companion. So let's now add the workflow on the button that really creates the companion. So I'll make a create a new thing action. I'll choose the companion. I'll choose the option to add all fields. Now for the category, it will be the drop-down category value. The description will be the description input. The image will be the picture uploader. The instructions will be the multi-line input. Oh, we didn't change the name of this one to be example conversation. Okay, so multi-line example here, it's the instructions. Great. Now the input name value and the conversation multi-line input. That's great. So now it will create the companion in the database, and after the creation of the companion I want to reset the relevant inputs, and then I want to navigate the user to the home page with the tab parameter as not a search for, but a get an option of option set menu, home, display. Now after it creates the companion, it will reset the relevant inputs, all the inputs in the page, and it will send the user to the home tab. Now this workflow should work only when the create tab companion is empty. So when we create a companion. But on the other hand, I want the same workflow to edit. So when it's not empty, the create tab companion is not empty, then we'll do some other things. So first of all, we'll make changes to the thing. So we don't need this. The make changes will be to the create tab companion. I'll add all the fields and we'll add here the same things. So the drop down category, the description input value, the image value, the instructions multi-line input, the name input, and also the example conversation multi-line input value. Great. Now I'll go to the plugins page and I'll add a plugin. It's a toast notifier plugin that will indicate that we created or edited the companion. So first of all, I need to drop the notifier in the top of this group, maybe inside here, and I make it one width and one height so it won't bother us, and I'll call it create or edit companion. I want the position to be top center. The success background should be gray 70. Success font color will be success 50. The border success will be also gray 70. And I think that is it for this notifier. I'll go back to the workflow and I'll add the notify and notifier. So here we do the edit. Companion edited should be fine. Oops, I deleted it. I'll go back and copy it to put it also in the create. So the companion is created, companion created, seems fine. and I'll change those workflows to the blue color so we can distinguish that they are the create or edit companion workflows. They basically belong to the create tab. Now let's check that everything works. So I'll go to our preview. I'll go to the create tab. Seems fine. Now I'll create our new companion. Let's say Elon Musk. We're already there. So let's add all the details. Founder of Tesla and SpaceX. The category will be famous people. I'll add the instruction from here. So I have the conversation already, and the instructions are also ready. That's great. So we have Elon Musk here, everything is filled, and let's create our companion. Great, the companion created. I should change this yellow text to be white. It will be prettier. And here we have our Elon Musk ready to go. So the messages is not showing because it doesn't have the messages counter. But we can add that if there's no messages counter, let's go to the Home tab and create. So this is, it didn't found any message counters, so it doesn't show anything. I'll add a condition that says that if this search for message counters, first item is empty, that means there's no message counter that the companion and user belongs to. So in this case, the text should be 0. So when we gonna chat with the AI companion, it's gonna create a new message counter data type. But until then, there is no message counter data type. So there's no number to show here. There's no message count field. But now, when we don't have this message counter, it will be 0 for the meantime until we start the conversation with Elon Musk. Now, if we press on Elon Musk, it should bring us to the chat page. And that's what we're gonna do in the next video. Great job so far, and I'll see you in the next one. Now that we've finished with the Create tab, let's tick off the boxes inside the document. So we added the relevant input fields, we build the workflow of creating the companion, and the update companion workflow also. Great job. Let's go ahead and build the main juicy money-making feature of this app. So let's go to the chat page that we created. Let's make the layout a column. And in the appearance tab, let's change the background color to be the background color. And here in the type of content, make sure it's a companion. And the backup field, we can put it as a name. Now inside this page, I will drop a group. This group will be called chat container. Now this chat container should have a padding of 16 on the left and the right, and I'll make the max width 800 and I'll add 32 just to make the padding unnoticeable. So we'll make the horizontal alignment center, and this will be our chat container. I'll also untick the fit height to content box. This will stretch the whole chat container over the page. Now I'll take another group and drop it inside the chat container. I will call it chat header. This group should have a border, the bottom border solid and gray 70. Now I'll go to the layout. I'll make a gap between the elements of 8 pixels. Actually, it should be a row container and 8 pixels to the column gap. I'll make changes for the padding, and I'll put on the top and the bottom padding 16 and the 8 on the left and the right paddings. Inside the chat header, I will drop an icon. I'll drop an image inside. I'll make this image aspect ratio fixed as 1 and 1, one for the width and one for the height. I'll change the fixed width to be 48, and I'll go to the Appearance tab and change the Dynamic Image field to be the current page companion image. Also, I'll need to make the roundness 100 for a perfect circle. Now, I'll make both of those elements center aligned for the vertical alignment. I'll take another group and drop it in here. This group will be group companion details, and I'll take both of those elements and group them in a row group. Now this will be the group companion header. Now I'll open it in the element tree, and I'll drop another group inside the group companion details, and I'll drop a text below this group. So this text will say created by, and will insert dynamic data after the created by of the current page companion creator name. So who created it? I'll change the font size to be 14. The weight should be medium, and the font color should be gray 60. This text is a little bit off, and that's because the group is taking too much place. So I'll make the min width 0, and I'll drop there inside this group a text. This will be the group top. The group top should be a row, and I'll make some space for the column to be 4. Now the text inside this group should be dynamic data current page companion name. To display the name, I will make it bold, and I'll change the color to gray 40. And now for the last element I want here, I will go back to the home page, to the home tab, and I'll just copy this group because we need the same group here and we don't want to repeat ourselves. So this group companion is in the right place. I just need to make this group min height 0. I will make it fit with the content, and let's see what issues we have. So the parent group thing, we don't use it, so it's the current page companion. So now this group uses the current page companion, and then the text inside knows how to find the companion. So now we don't have any problems. Great. The last thing that I want to do with this group is to center it to the middle and make sure the bigger group has some space between it of 8 pixels, and now it looks great. This icon, I'll change it to a left chevron icon. It's this one, and the color should be white. So now I want to add a menu to this header that this way we can edit or delete the companion. So I'll drop an icon here, make it center aligned. I'll change it to an icon called More, vertical, and the color should be white. Now I'll right click on this element. I'll use the option to convert to a reusable element, and I'll call it menu chat. Now this element should have a min height of 0. Now I'll go and grab a focus group like this. I'll call the focus group chat. I'll make the max width 120. I'll make the minimum width 0. I'll put paddings for top, bottom, left and right of 4 pixels. The reference element should be the icon. I'll set the offset top to be 4 and the offset left to be -80. Now it should align with the icon perfectly. The background color should be this black color. I'll make the shadow style disappear. and I'll add a group inside this group focus. Now this group should be called group edit. It should have the roundness of 5 and the magic touch of background style transition. Now for the layout, I will make the container layout a row. I'll apply gap for the column of 4 pixels, and I'll also add paddings to the left and the right of 4 pixels. Now for the condition, I will make this when this group is hovered, the background style should be flat color, and the background color should be text with 10 opacity. So when we hover, it should look like this. Great. Now let's add an icon to this group and a text. The icon should have an edit icon, and it should be white, and the text should say edit. Now I'll make both of them vertical aligned to the center, and that should be it. Maybe we can make it a little bit bigger. 18 seems nice. So I'll copy this group edit and I'll paste it here. I'll change it to group delete. I'll change the text to be delete. And the icon should have a trash can. I think it's delete. Yeah. Great. It looks great. So all the conditions are also copied to the group delete, so we don't need to do anything here. We just need to make some workflows and we finish with this element. So when we click the icon in the chat header, we'll toggle the focus group. When we click the edit group, we'll just make a navigation, go to page action, home, and we'll send the following parameters. So the first one will be the tab. We'll send it straight to the create tab to edit the companion, and I'll also send the companion that we used earlier as this menu chat companion. We need just to make this reusable element type of content a companion. So now I could do it. So the menu chat companion unique ID. Now we send it when we want to edit. Now in order to not allow other users to edit the companion that is not theirs, I can add only one rule, that when the menu chat companion creator is current user. Now this workflow will work only when the companion that we're chatting with, its creator is the current user. We're gonna hide the menu when it's not the current user, but there's always a good reason to make extra security for sensitive stuff. I'll go to the design tab and take this last group delete. I'll add a workflow to this group to delete a thing, and the thing that we're gonna delete is the menus chat companion. Now I'll take a notifier element and add it here. I'll make the width and the height 1 so it's not visible. I'll make the position top center. I'll change the name to be notifier delete. I'll change the success background to be gray 80, the border success to be gray 80, the success font color should be white, the success icon primary should be green 50, and the success icon secondary can be white. Now it works great. And I'll add to this workflow the notify action that the companion deleted. Now it will notify when the companion is deleted, and then I'll want to send the user to the home page. And that's it for this reusable element. let's just drop the reusable element inside the chat header. So this icon is not necessary, and I'll drop it here. I'll make it fit to content and center aligned. That's great. So the data source will be the current page companion, and with that we finish this header. Now let's make a workflow to go back from the chat page. So if they press on this icon, I will navigate them back to the home page, where the tab is the home tab. So I'll get the option from the option set menu, home display, and that's it for this. Now I'll close this chat header group and I'll add another group. I'll call this group chat messages, and I'll add another group and call it chat input. Now inside the chat input, I want to drop an input and an icon. I'll make this chat input group a row. I'll apply some gaps between the elements, a column gap of 16 pixels. I'll make a padding of 16 from the top and 32 from the bottom. I'll align both of the elements to the center. I'll take the icon and make its width 60 and its height 40. And I'll change the icon to be send and white colored. Now for the input, I will make some changes. So first of all, the input should be input chat message. The placeholder should be type and message. We'll tick this input should not be empty box. All of the other settings are great. Let's go to the layout, untick the width and make it 40 height. Great. So let's go to the chat messages. Let's untick the fit height to content. Let's tick the allow vertical scrolling. Let's add 16 padding to the top and the bottom. And let's go to the appearance and add a bottom border. Solid gray 70. Great. So we've done with the design here. Next, we'll create the messages and the UI of the chat, and we'll connect everything with a workflow to call the response from OpenAI API and make all the AI characters arise. So I'll just check that everything works with the chat. So I'll click on Elon Musk and we'll see what we see. Great. So we see here Elon Musk, 0 messages thus far, created by Sean Zimkov. We have the edit and the delete. The input still doesn't have any workflow. Let's press on edit and see where it gets us. Great, so we're in the create tab with all Elon Musk's details, and now we can edit the companion. So let's see the changes, companion edited. Great job so far. Now, when you see this page is too big, it's because we set the min height of the page to 2000, but we will make it normal. Let's just tick off that we finished designing the chat page. So we've built the chat header, the chat menu, and the message input. Let's go ahead and create our core feature of our AI companion app, where users can see messages, interact with the AI character, and make the experience smooth. So let's get back to the editor. In the chat page, let's open this chat container and this chat messages group, and let's drop a repeating group inside. So the type of content of the repeating group should be a message, and for the data source, we'll do a search for messages where companion equals the current page companion and the user equals the current user. Now for the sort, I want to make the created date not descending, so it's ascending, and this will make a clear structure of the messages just like WhatsApp. Now I'll untick the fixed number of rows and I leave the columns as 1. I'll go to the Layout tab. I'll untick the Fit Width to Content and make the min width as 0. Now I'll take a group and drop it inside the repeating group. This group will be the current sales message. In the layout, I will tick the gap space and make the row 8. I will change the container layout to row and add a column gap of 16 pixels. And for the padding, I'll just add 16 pixels on the bottom. Now for the conditionals, I'll make a condition when current sales message sender is user. So when the message was sent by the user, make this container alignment of this group to the right. Great. So now let's take an image and drop it inside the group message. This image will be the companion's image. Companion. So the dynamic image should be current page companion image. I'll change the roundness to 100 and I'll go to the Layout tab. Here I will change the width to 48 and I'll keep it fixed. And for the aspect ratio, I will make it 1 for the width and 1 for the height. Now I'll untick both of those boxes. So I don't want it to collapse when hidden and I don't want it to show on page load. So I don't want it to collapse when it's hidden because I want this space to remain empty and occupied by this image even when the user is the one who's chatting right now. And for this box, I'll make it visible only when the parent group message sender is the robot, is the AI. Now I'll take a text element and put it right next to it. I'll make the background of this text the surface color. I'll make the roundness 5 and it will act as a container. So this should be a dynamic data of the parent group's message text. Now in the Layout tab, I will change the max width to 626 and this weird number came up by calculating how much padding and how much the image is gonna take in terms of pixels inside the overall chat container group that we have. You'll understand it better when we'll see it in action. So for now, let's add some paddings to this group. It will be 12 on all of them. Now I'll take an icon and add it here. I'll change it to be the copy icon and the color should be gray 60. I'll go to the Layout tab. I'll untick the visible on page load box. I'll make it centered. I'll go to the conditional tab and define a condition for this icon to be visible only when the parent group's message sender is the robot, the AI itself, and when group message is hovered. So when this group, the big group, is hovered and the message is sent by the AI, so this icon will be visible. Now I'll take this image of the AI companion and I'll paste it in the same group. This would be the last element. I'll change the name to be image user. This condition should be when the parent group's message sender is a user. So this image should be visible. Now I'll add another condition. So when the current user profile picture is empty, then the image source will be the general image of Anonymous. Now I'll go to the Layout tab. This is good. It's just like the AI. So I want it to not collapse when it's hidden and it's not visible on page load. That's great. And the appearance should be current user profile picture. That's great. So the repeating group is all set in terms of the design. So I'll add a welcome message from the AI I'll put a group above the repeating group and I'll call it AI welcome. Now this group should have a padding on the bottom of 16 pixels. It should be a container layout of a row, and I'll apply some spacing, 8 for the row and 16 for the columns. Now I'll just copy both of these elements and paste it inside the welcome AI. So for the image, I'll cancel this condition, I will delete it, and I'll tick both of those boxes, and that's it for the image. And the message text should say something like, hello, I am, insert dynamic data, current page companion name, comma, insert dynamic data, current page companion description. Now we have a welcome message from our AI, and it seems friendly. And the last thing that I want to add here is another group similar to the AI welcome group, but we'll call it AI loader. And this is going to be the loading animation when the AI is thinking and bringing the response. So the image is okay here, but I don't want this text, so I'll delete it. I'll drop a group inside and I'll call it group loader. I'll make the roundness of this group 5, and the background color will be surface. I'll go to the layout tab, I'll feed the width to content, and I'll make the minimum width 0. Now inside this group loader, I'll drop an HTML element, and with some CSS code, this will create a loader animation. So let's go to the Notion document. Let's go to the CSS snippets. And let's copy this chat loader CSS. Now let's paste it here. And now we have a cool animation for the thinking of the AI. I'll go to the layout tab. I'll change the width to be maximum 88. The minimum width can be 0. I'll set it fit to content. I'll change the min width to be 0, and I'll change the max width to be 32. Now I'll add 4 padding to the top, to the bottom, and 16 to the left and 16 to the right. Now it's in the middle and it looks great. I'll just change the HTML to be an HTML loader. And that's it for the loader. Now I want to use this icon to copy the text message that the AI is sending. So I'll go to the plugins. I'll add the air copy plugin to the clipboard. I'll go back to the design tab. And now I can add a workflow when this icon is clicked. We'll go to the plugins and copy to clipboard from static text. Now the text will be the parents group message text. Great. Now I also want to notify that the message has been copied. So I'll take the notifier element. I'll drop it somewhere in the page. I'll make it before the menu, and I'll make it one width and one height, center to the middle, and it will be unnoticeable. So the notifier name should be notifier copy, and I'll change the appearance to the default that we like. So the success background should be gray 80, success font color white, gray 80. Here the success icon primary, success 50, success icon secondary should be white. Great. Now the position should be top center, and that's it. Let's just add the notify action here. Copied to clipboard. That's nice. Great. So we have the copy functionality. Now I'll go to the Design tab, and for this AI loader group, I will untick the visible on page load. I'll go to the condition and I'll add a condition when chat this page. I'll add a new custom state. The custom state will be called is loading, and it will be a yes or no type of field. So basically when the chat is loading is yes, this element should be visible. So only when we send the call to bring the response, it will show us the loader. That's awesome. So we're really close to finishing this app. In the next video, we're gonna make the AI response with the OpenAI API call. Let's go back to the document and tick the boxes that we've done. So we've built the messages repeating group, we've built the first message of the companion, we've built the loader of the companion message, and also the copy to clipboard icon, and the workflow also, of course. So we've done here. Now we're gonna build the functionality of sending a message, getting a response from the AI character, and displaying the message here in the chat. So first of all, we need to go to the OpenAI platform. I will provide the link inside the Notion document. Here you can sign up or log in if you already have an account. Then in this dropdown, you can create a new project. I'll just use the existing project that I already have. And then you can go to the API keys here on the sidebar, and you need to create a new secret key. So let's call it a companion AI tutorial, for example, and let's create the secret key. Now you can copy the secret key, and now you can go back to the Bubble editor, and let's go to the plugins. In the plugins, add the API connector plugin and add another API. Here, call the API OpenAI. The authentication method that we're gonna use is private key in header. Here it should be the authorization key name, and the private key will be bearer, and paste the secret key that you just got from OpenAI. Now let's add a shared header when the key name will be content type, and the value will be application/JSON. Now let's go to the documentation of OpenAI. Here in the Create Chat Compilation section, you can see all the documentation that we need to make the API call work. The link to this page is also in the Notion document. Here you can see this scroll option and just copy this code. Then we'll go back to the editor and we'll click on the option Import another call from curl. Then you can paste here the code and it will just configure the whole call for you. So this one we can just delete. Here change the name to chat companion. Change this use as action. Make sure it's a post call and you have this endpoint here. And also this one we can delete because we did everything in the header. Now for the body, we can see in the documentation that we need the messages field and the model field in order for it to function. So here, the model, we can leave it GPT 4.0, but for the messages, we'll do something different. I want to send two parameters inside the messages array. The first parameter should be the instructions, and the second one should be messages. You use these arrows for dynamic value. Now we have an instructions value and a messages value. I'll untick the private boxes. And now let's go to the Notion document and I'll show you what values we can provide here. So here in the API call configuration, we have the instructions example for the API call configuration and also the messages. So it basically functions the same way. Every object in these brackets has a role and a content. The same with the messages. When we write the system as the role, it gives instructions to OpenAI on how to respond. And here you can give all the instructions. So this one is what I will paste in the dynamic value of the instructions. And for the second one, I'll go for the messages, I'll copy it, and here we can see the example that the role assistant, will be the AI character, says busy as always between sending rockets to space and building the future of electric vehicles. There's never a dull moment. How about you? This is an example for a message Elon Musk would send. And now I'm, as the user, will send a message, what's the next big step for SpaceX? So if I just paste it here, we can see with those parameters what kind of answer it generates. Great, so we don't have any errors and the call has been initialized. And now we can see the answer. The next big step for SpaceX is getting Starship operational. Starship is designed to be fully reusable, next generation spacecraft that will carry both crew and cargo to a variety of destinations. Basically, he answered our question with the knowledge of Elon Musk. When we try the chat with other questions, we'll see it in action. So now you can press save and the whole call is initialized. So everything's here ready. We can also just delete this and continue with our life. So let's go to the workflow tab. Let's change the workflow colors to be green to say it's something general. And I'll go to the design tab. I'll find the send icon and I'll add a workflow on it. Now in this workflow, I want to create a new thing. This thing will be a message. Let's add all the fields. The companion will be the current page companion. The message will be the input chat message value. The sender will be the user because this is the user who sends the inputs value. And the user will be the current user. Great. So now I want to reset the relevant inputs. And let's add a custom workflow that is called create counter. In this custom workflow, I want to have a parameter of a companion, type companion, and I want to return something, and it will be the message counter object that we will create in this workflow. So this custom workflow will create a message counter, and let's add all the fields. The first field will be the companion from the workflow data source. The user will be the current user, and the message count will be 2. The message count will be 2 because the creation of the message counter is happening while the AI character is responding to our message. So from the start, we'll have 2 messages in the message counter. Now the next action will be to return the data. Which data? The message counter that we created in step 1. Great. So now I'll go back to the workflow of the send icon and I'll trigger a custom event when the companion is the current page companion. Now for this create counter workflow, I want it to be activated only when we search for message counter where the companion equals the current page companion and the user equals current user. And when from this search we get the first item and this first item is empty, that means that there are no message counters to this companion and user. So we need to create one. And this happens here. Now I need to create another custom workflow. And this custom workflow will be the companion response. So here we'll use the OpenAI API call that we just configured. The parameters that I want to give to this custom event will be companion. The second parameter will be user's message, and it will be a text. And the third parameter that I want to bring is the message counter. So we know to add another count for the messages when the companion responds. So the type will be message counter. Great. The first action in this custom workflow will be to set the state of the chat page. The custom state is loading is yes, because we want to indicate to the user that we started the response process and the loader will show up. Now what happens is the OpenAI chat companion call that we configured earlier. For the instructions of this call, I will make an arbitrary text. And here you can go to the document, the Notion document, and copy everything. This is the real call and not the initialize. Don't get confused. This prompt does the best answers from my experience. I just tried a lot of styles, and this one works the best in terms of a good response from the AI character. So let's go back to the editor and paste it. And here in the start section, you can see this variable in these brackets, the companion's instructions. So insert dynamic data of the companion's instructions. And also here, example conversation, companion, seed conversation. So we can insert here the data of the companion, seed conversation. So now the instructions are in place and we need to configure the messages. The messages will be the repeating group message, list of messages, format as a text. So for each item in the list, we'll format it here and make the delimiter a comma. So here in the call, it should be this curly bracket, a row like this, and open this one, and insert the dynamic data of this message. Sender is user, format as a text. So if it's a user, I want the text to be user, and if it's not, I want it to be the assistant. Now let's close it and make a comma, and then we'll give the content like this. Make sure you don't miss anything. And then we'll insert the dynamic data, this message text, and we'll close it also. Then we'll make space and the closing curly bracket. Now this will format it for every message we have in the repeating group. Now that we configure this call, we can set the state after the OpenAI chat companion API call is responded. We can set the state of the chat is loading is no, and then the loader will disappear. Then we'll create a new thing. We'll create the message of the AI character. Let's add all the fields. The first field will be the companion that we used. The second field will be the result of the API call from step 2. So we'll choose the result of step 2, choices, first item, and message content. This should bring us the message that we saw in the API initialization that we did in the API connector. The sender should be the robot, the AI character, and the user should be the current user. Great. Now I want this to have a condition that if it doesn't work, don't create the message. So if result of step 2, choices first item message content is empty, is not empty, Then do this workflow and create a new message from the AI. That means that it works and it's not empty. Now for the fifth step, let's make changes to the message counter that we have here in the workflow. I'll add all the fields. I'll change the field of the message count, and I'll take this message counter, message count, +2. I'll add a condition only when result of step 4 is not empty. So only if this message was created, then I will make the count increase by 2. And the last thing is more of a user experience thing. I'll want to scroll to the entry of the repeating group. I'll choose the repeating group message element, and in the entry to scroll to, I'll choose result of step 4, and I'll tick the animate the scrolling box. That's it. I think we finished with the companion response. Let's color it in blue to know it's from the response. This create counter is also related, and the send message is also related. Now I just need to trigger the custom event companion response as the last action here while I'm pressing the send. So the companion will be the current page companion. The user message will be the result of step 1 message text. So basically what we created here. The message counter will be this message counter that we search for. So the search for message counters where companion is the current space companion and the user is the current user. So if we find one, then bring the first one here. But we will surely find one because even if there's no one, it will be created right here and then it will transfer it here. Great. Now I'll add another workflow for the situation when a user loads the chat page and there's too many messages, so we'll scroll to the latest message. So I'll go to the pages loaded workflow. I'll change it to green already, and I'll need only one action, and it's scroll to entry of repeating group, the repeating group message, and I want it to scroll to the repeating groups message list of messages, last item, and animate the scrolling. That's great. So we have everything ready. Let's check if it works. So I'll reload this page and I'll ask Elon, how did you come up with Tesla? Okay, the loader is working. Great. So we got a response, no problems here. Let's see how he responds. So, Tesla, smiles. It all started with the idea of sustainability. The world desperately needed a shift from fossil fuels to sustainable energy. Electric vehicles seemed like a perfect way to drive that change. Pun intended. I don't understand the pun. Now I understand the pun. I wanted to create a car so compelling and enjoyable to drive that people would choose it over gas-powered cars. And look at us now. We're pushing the boundaries of what's possible with energy-efficient vehicles. What excites you most about the future of electric cars? I think it's a damn nice answer. So we can copy to clipboard. Let's check. Yes, this is his answer. So this is working. And yeah, it works. The message count went up to 2. If we go back and we go straight back to it, we can see the messages. That's great, guys. We've built the core feature and now the app is actually functional. The last 2 things that we need to do with this app is to integrate Stripe and put a paywall for users to subscribe. And also we need to set the settings page where users can manage their own account and the subscription status. So really great job so far. you finished with the tough part. Let's go and wrap this up. Now that the app is alive, let's go back to the document and tick off the boxes. So we configured the OpenAI API call, we've created the message counter object, we've built the workflow to generate the response, and we've creating and displaying a new message after the response. Great job. In order to monetize our AI companion app, we need to implement subscriptions and a paywall. So first, we're gonna need to go to the Stripe website and create a new account. After you create a new account, you'll be redirected to this dashboard. And here, inside the dashboard, you can see that you can create new projects. I'll just use the current project, but you can create another one. In this section right here, you can see that you have some keys, a publishable key and a secret key that we'll need to use in order to integrate Stripe. So after you've done with this step, you can go back to the editor and go to the plugins. In the plugins, you should add the Stripe plugin by Bubble. And here you can see the publishable key and the secret key that we need to paste. So let's go back to the Stripe website. We'll copy the publishable key and paste it right here. And let's go back and copy the secret key and paste it in the secret key field. I also prefer to choose this option, checkout v3, because it looks much better in my opinion. And now when we have this plugin configured, let's go to the header. Let's open the pop-up subscribe and pick this button subscribe. Let's add a workflow. The first action should be subscribe the user to a plan. Let's untick this box. And now we need to choose the Stripe plan name. In order to have the Stripe plan name, we need to go back to Stripe. Let's go to the product catalog and create a new product. Let's call this product Companion AI. In the description, we can write something like create custom AI companions. Let's choose the recurring option. Let's set the amount to be $9.99 and set the billing period to be a monthly subscription. Now you can press on add the product. And now that you've added the product, you can open it. And down here you can see the plan name. And now let's go back to the editor and choose the Stripe plan name that we've just added. For me it's this one. And that's it for this action. Now I want to create a new thing. I'll choose subscription. I'll choose the add all fields option. For the start date, I will choose the result of step 1. And I'll choose current period starting date. For the status, I will choose the active option, as we've just purchased the subscription in the last step. And for the subscription ID, I will choose the result of step 1 subscription ID. Now for the end date, I will choose result of step 1 current period ending date. And I also want to make the end date the end of the day. So I'll do it by changing the hours to 23, changing the minutes to 59, and changing the seconds to be also 59. That way the subscription will end at the end of the day. Now for the last action that we'll need to make, it's make changes to the current user. We'll change the field of the subscription and we'll make it the result of step 2. Now that we've finished this workflow, I'll mark it in blue to indicate that's related to the subscription feature. That's great. So now I want to go to the mobile sidebar and change the group create workflow. So first of all, I'll cut this action and I'll add it here before the navigation. And that way we can just delete it from all the workflows and it will be activated in this custom workflow. And here I want to add a rule that only when the current user subscription status is active, this workflow will fire. So now if the current user subscription status is active, he will go to the create tab. But when the current user subscription status is not active, I'll want to show the subscription pop-up. So we'll do it by adding a pop-up into the page. We'll call it hidden variables. We'll go to the assets and drop the header inside. Now we can go back to the workflow and add the second action that will be trigger a custom event from a reusable element and will show the subscribe pop-up. And that will fire only when the current user subscription status is not active. That way, if the current user is not subscribed, it won't navigate him to the Create tab. It will instead open the subscription pop-up from the header and prompt him to subscribe to the app. Now let's do the same for the sidebar, because we have another group create here. So this should fire only when the current user subscription status is active. Okay, so we should navigate only when it's active. And we'll go to the design tab, add the same pop-up. We'll call it hidden variables. We'll drop the header inside and we'll go to the workflow tab. We'll go to the custom events. We'll trigger a custom event from the reusable element and make it only when the current user subscription status is not active. That's great. So now when the user wants to create a new AI companion, he will need to subscribe to the app before he can do so. Now let's go to the Home tab, and to this workflow, when the companion is created, let's add another thing to this expression and say and current user subscription status is active. When the Create tab's companion is empty, it will create the companion, but it also needs the current user subscription status to be active. That's great. So let's go check it out. So if I'll try now to create a new companion, it will prompt me to subscribe. And let's check it on mobile. Let's open the sidebar and check. Great. So it wants me to subscribe. Now let's actually subscribe. Great. So we're subscribed. First of all, this button has disappeared, but now we can create a new companion if we want to. That's great. Now what's left is only the settings page where we can cancel the subscription and also manage the account settings. Let's go to the Notion document and just tick what we finished. So we've built a subscription pop-up, that was a lot earlier. We'll install the Stripe plugin, we configured the Stripe API keys and created a new subscription. And we restricted the access based on the subscription status. That's great. Let's go ahead and create the settings page to allow users to manage their profile information, their subscription status, and also their payment history. Now let's go back to the Bubble editor, to the design tab. Let's open this group and let's just drop another group inside. We'll call this the settings tab. I'll go to the layout. I will apply space between the elements of 32 pixels. I will make this element not visible on page load. And I'll also add padding to the top and the bottom of 32 pixels. And to the left and the right, 16 pixels. Now I'll add a conditional when get tab from page URL is get an option set menu settings, display, then this element will be visible. Great. Now let's take another group and drop it inside the settings tab. Let's call this group account settings. In this group, I'll just apply the gap spacing between the elements to be 16. Now in this group, I'll drop a text. The text should say account settings. I'll change this font size to be 20 and I'll bold the text. Now let's take a picture uploader, drop it below this text. Let's make the roundness 100. Let's change the border width to be 1 and the color to be gray 80, 70. Let's call the picture uploader profile picture. Let's change the dynamic image to be the current user's profile picture. And here we can change the placeholder to be click to upload profile picture. Great. Now let's take an input and drop it below this picture uploader. Let's change the placeholder to be full name. Let's make the initial content the current user name. And let's go to the layout and change the height to be 40. Let's untick the fixed width box and make the max width 250 and make the min width 0. And the last element for this group will be the button. This button label should be update. Let's change the roundness to be 5 and let's go to the layout. Let's make the top and bottom padding 0, the left and the right will be 20, and now we just add a workflow to this button. The first action should be make changes to the current user. We'll make changes to the name and the profile picture. The name should be the input full name value, and the profile picture will be the picture uploader profile picture value. Now just to make the user experience a little bit better, so we'll do the notify and notifier action and we'll make it success. Now I'll go to the workflow and change the event color to be red to indicate that the workflow is related to the settings page. Let's go back to the design tab. Let's add another group inside the settings tab. So it should be here and it should be the next one. Let's close this. This group can be called subscription settings. Let's copy the account settings and paste it here and change it to be subscription settings. Let's paste it again. Let's unbold it, make the font size 16 and change the text color to be gray 50. The text should say you are currently on a free plan. And now I'll go to the conditional tab to add a condition when the current user subscription status is active. The text would say you are currently on a pro plan. So when the user subscription is active, it will say the text you are currently on a pro plan. Let's go to the group settings and change the gap between the elements to be 12 pixels. Now let's be lazy and go to the header reusable element. Let's find the upgrade button and just copy it and paste it inside the settings tab and inside the group subscription settings. Now let's add this button a workflow that will trigger the custom event from the reusable element header and it will show the subscription pop-up. That's great. Let's just change the color to be red and go back to the design tab. Let's open this group in the element tree and add another group below everything and call this group active subscription. Let's go to the layout tab and add a space between the elements of 8 pixels and untick the visible on page load box. I'll go to the conditional tab now and define another condition. So when the current user subscription status is active, I'll want this element to be visible. Now I'll take this text element and paste it right here. I'll delete this condition and go to the appearance tab. Here I'll change the color to be gray 40 and I'll change the font weight to be medium. Now the text should say subscription end date and we'll insert the dynamic data of the current user's subscription end date and we'll format it in this format like this. I'll make a copy of this text, paste it right here and I'll change this to be the next billing Now I'll take another button and drop it here. I'll change the roundness to be 5, and the button text should say cancel subscription. Now let's add a workflow to this button. To cancel the current user's plan, I'll untick this box of cancel all subscriptions, and I'll give the subscription ID of the current user subscription ID. Now for the second action, I will make changes to a thing. The thing will be the current user subscription, and I'll make changes for the status and the end date. So the end date should be the current date time, and the status should be cancelled. Great, let's just make it red, and let's go back to the design tab, and let's add the last group of this app. The last group should be below the active subscription group, and the group will be called group past subscriptions. Now I'll go up and copy the subscription settings text, and I'll add a margin of 16 to this text, and I'll change the text to say just subscriptions. Below this text, I'll want to add a repeating group. I'll change the repeating group type of content to be subscription, and for the data source, I will do a search for subscriptions, and I'll add a constraint that the subscription created by equals current user. So it will bring me all the subscriptions that belong to the user. I'll also sort it by the end date, and I will make it descending. Now for the repeating group appearance, I'll untick this box of fixed number of rows. I will make the min height of row 40. Then I'll go to the layout tab and just untick the fit width to content checkbox, and I'll change the min height to be 0. Now I'll drop a group inside the repeating group. I'll change the container layout to be a row, and I'll apply a space between for the row and the column to be 16. I'll go to the Appearance tab and change the data source to be the current sales subscription, and I'll also change the type of content to be the subscription. Now I'll take this text element and paste it inside the group. I will delete this condition, and in the Appearance tab I will change the text to be the parent group subscription, start date, formatted as I will want and I will make also the hours and the minutes here. It should look like this. Now I'll add a space hyphen space and insert the parent group subscription end date, and we'll format it the same way. So we'll choose the custom option and just paste it from the earlier example. Now let's take another text and put it inside this group. I'll make it next. Now for this text padding, I will change the top and the bottom to be 4, the left and the right to be 8. I'll go to the Appearance tab and change it to cancelled. I'll change the font size to be 12 and the weight to be 600. The font color should be this red color, Destructive 50. And let's go to the background style and change the flat color to be Destructive 20. I'll also want to change the roundness to be 20. Now this is how the text will look if the subscription is cancelled, but I'll want to define another condition. So when the parent group subscription status is active, we'll change the background color. We'll also change the font color, and we need to change the text itself. So the text will say active, the background color will be success 20, and the font color will be success 50. Now let's see how it would look like. Great. Now let's see it all in action. I'll go to the Settings tab. We can see that we have a subscription active right now when we subscribed. We can update the profile picture to be this picture. I'll press update. So this error that we've just saw says that the notifier in the update action is not working because we can't find it. Probably the notifier of the create and edit companion, and we didn't load it to the page, so it couldn't find it. So let's add another notifier just for this case. I'll take the notifier element and add it up here. I'll change the width and the height to be 1. I'll go to the appearance. I'll change the name to be update account. I'll make the position top center. I'll change the success background to be the gray 80 that we like. Success font should be white. Border success will be gray 70. The success icon primary should be green 50, success 50, and the success icon secondary will leave it as white. Now let's try it out again. Let's say I'm Sean Zimkovo and update it. Now it works great. For the subscription settings, we can see that I'm currently on the Pro plan. I'm subscribed until the 22nd of March, and here I can cancel the subscription. So your subscription has been successfully canceled. Now we can see that it updated in the database that it's canceled, and we have the upgrade button. Let's just check the create when we're unsubscribed. Great, so it works. Let's upgrade again and see how the apps behaves. So I'll add the dummy credit card here. And that's it. I'll subscribe. We'll wait for Stripe to process the payment. And that's great. So the credit card has been processed and the subscription now is active. Really great job, guys. You have made it until the end and you've managed to create this app from scratch. I'm really proud of you guys. Let's just go to the Notion document. Tick that we've built the account settings, we've built the subscription settings and the cancel subscription workflow. And also we're displaying the subscriptions history. Great, the settings page is done. So let's go and take the companion data. Let's take Albert Einstein and test our companion creation flow up until the chat with Albert Einstein. So I'll just copy the name here and I'll go to the create tab. I'll paste the name. I'll paste his description. I'll make him a scientist. I'll paste the photo. That's great. We'll go and take the instructions, paste them here, and also the example conversation. So now I'll create the companion. The companion is created. That reminds me that we need to change the home page to be 800 in the minimum. Now let's take this newly created Albert Einstein and ask him, hey Albert, what's your favorite formula? Equation maybe. Oh, my dear friend, that's an easy one, grins with delight. E equals mc squared, of course. This elegant equation captures how energy and mass are interchangeable, a revelation that opened up infinity realms of possibilities in physics. It's like the key that unlocks the door to the universe's grand symphony. Iced Twinkle. What about you? Any favorites in the realms of numbers and equations? Oh, that crazy Albert. Isn't it cool that you've managed to create an app that works like this? Now, thank you so much for watching. Love you guys. Bye.